Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, welcome to the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books and I let you know what I thought about them. And we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Murder Falcon, #1 from Image Comics. This book was so much fun, loud, boisterous, insane, absurd, crazy, off the wall. So much fun with a little bit of heart. This is great. Basically a story about this kid who is an awesome guitar player, plays metal guitar music, and he's got this dude Murder Falcon that shows up, and he's going to be helping him fight all the monsters off there coming through this portal, this tear that's ripping between dimensions, between our reality and the reality of these crazy monsters. So Murder Falcon shows up to save the day. He's this crazy falcon humanoid beast thing with a robot arm that's fueled by this kid playing guitar. It's amazing. So much fun, so much absurdity, but a lot of heart and a lot of character work too. Excellent work too as far as telling the story. Great, brilliant, beautiful artwork. It is written and illustrated by Daniel Warren Johnson with some coloring by Mike Spicer. Really good stuff. Really like this book. Very fun. Like I said, it's also got heart, but it's also got insane ideas. Fun, boisterous, off-the-wall insane ideas. Things that could only be done in a comic book. This one is going to be a hit. It's going to be huge. I think a lot of people are really going to respond well to this. It's one of the most fun I've had reading a comic book in 2018. Murder Falcon #1, the pick of the week. From Marvel Comics, we got Spider-Geddon #1, the official start of the actual event Spider-Geddon. We've had a lot of preludes, a lot of leading up into it. This is a sequel to Spider-Verse. Now, I wasn't really the biggest fan of Spider-Verse. I thought it was okay, so I wasn't really that excited about Spider-Geddon, but issue #1 was really, really good, especially if you're a fan of the Superior Spider-Man. If you're a fan of Otto Octavius and where they're going with that character right now, which I am, you're going to love this book. Christos K. totally nails the character. Get all the different Spider-Men and Spider-Women and other Spider characters from the other universes as well. The Inheritors are back. That's what's going on. This was a really fun issue. Really cool, and I think this is going to be a big story. They said it's going to be a big Miles Morales story, but I also think it's going to be a big Otto Octavius story. Spider-Geddon #1, a really good start in my opinion. X-Men Black #1 is here for Mojo, so this is a series of one-shots. Last week we had Magneto, next week we got Mystique. It's a series of one-shots focusing on the X-Men villains. We get the X-Men are about to relaunch, going to do that disassembled story. What's going to happen after that? Lots of speculation out there, but this Mojo story, I wasn't really looking forward to it. I'm not really a big Mojo fan. Aside from his action figure from back in the Toy Biz days, every time I was reading an X-Men comic book or watching an episode of the X-Men animated series in the 90s, and it was a Mojo episode or a Mojo issue, I would roll my eyes and be like, I'm going to have to force feed this stuff. That's what I thought when I started reading this book. But it was really fun, really cool. Kind of a touching and very absurd story about Mojo falling in love with a human. Really, really fun, crazy, weird stuff that's not uber threatening, but I found it very endearing and a very charming story. It's written by Scott Aukerman with artwork by Nick Bradshaw and Andre Lima Arahu. Guru EFX on the coloring. Fantastic stuff. I really did like it. Thought it was a great story. This apocalypse backup that's going to run through all these X-Men Black stories. That's interesting. They're basically kind of almost figuratively and literally deconstructing Apocalypse. Very interesting stuff. I want to see where that's going and if that's going to lead into Zach Thompson's work over at X-Men when that starts in January or whatever, right? I don't know. But X-Men Black Mojo, I actually kind of liked it. We got one of those new What If one-shots this week. What if Peter Parker became the Punisher? It's exactly what you think. What if after Uncle Ben died, instead of learning that with great power comes great responsibility, he learned that with great power comes the ability to punish people, right? So it's exactly what you think. It's an all-right issue. What's really cool is it's written by Carl Potts of Punisher fame from back in the day, especially in the 90s. He did that Venom Funeral Pyre comic book series we just covered that was about Punisher and and Venom's first team up. Really fun stuff. So having Carl Potts on it, that's fun. It's going to take you back to those days a little bit. But ultimately, this one was all right. Not as good as the What If Flash Thompson became Spider-Man one from last week. Not as ambitious as What If the X-Men were the 0011000011.exe men, right? Anyway, but pretty decent, fun, right along the veins of what you expect from What Ifs. kind of slightly dark, tweaked out versions of the characters. What if Peter Parker became the Punisher? It's a story that deserved to be told in a what if, absolutely. Venom number 7 is here, a great issue. This is the start of a brand new story arc. You don't have Ryan Stegman here on the artwork, but you do have Iban Coelho, who does a great job, a different style, not as ultra hyper detailed, but definitely it's got its own flow, and it really does work with the story. Picks up a little bit after the end results of the first story arc. Really good stuff. Donny Cates continues doing what he's doing, which is redefining things that we thought we knew about Venom and the symbiote, things we took for granted. He continues to do it in these pages, and he also is doing some great character work with not just Eddie Brock, but with the symbiote, and in this issue, about their connection, about how empty Eddie would feel if he didn't have that connection there, right? Really good character work, really cool tweaking of the mythology of Venom, a decent artwork artist that comes in to fill in for Ryan Stegman. This is the start of another great arc for Venom. This is my favorite Venom. This is just great. This is great stuff. Absolutely. Infinity Wars number 4 is here. This story has lost its luster for me, guys. I was really digging what they were building up with Guardians of the Galaxy into Infinity Countdown, and then after the results of what happened in issue 3, like, it's just been, I don't know, I'm not interested. I found this issue to be boring. I wasn't really engrossed in the story. I found it kind of confusing, hard to follow, or maybe I just really didn't care. But that's what I picked up on when I was reading this book, was that ever since the Infinity Warp stuff happened, I really don't care anymore. The story feels directionless. Now, I know it's not, and I'm going to check it out and see what happens. But ultimately, I don't know. It just doesn't feel, I don't know. That was just a boring issue for me. Avengers number 9 is here. I did like this issue, but it's not really an Avengers issue. It's a Namor issue. It seems like Jason Aaron really wants to make Namor kind of more that, take him back to more of those villainous roots he had at times in the 60s, right? A little bit more than just that, the edge that he's had lately, but back to that really villainous edge. A very threatening Namor in this issue, absolutely. Great artwork by David Marquez with Justin Ponser on the coloring. Fantastic stuff. I do like the artwork. I do like the story. It's going to have some slightly controversial moments, I think, for hardcore Namor fans, but I think it goes along with the character, but it's still, it was a tough pill to swallow. Some interesting things happen in this issue. But I'm liking what Jason Aaron is doing with the Avengers, and it's kind of like a step down, it seems like, from the final host story. But that's what happens in the Avengers. But right now, I'm digging it. I like what's going on with Namor in here. Some interesting developments there. Amazing Spider-Man number 7 is here. This book has been so much fun. Nick Spencer's been doing a great job of taking things that have threads from Superior Foes of Spider-Man, threads from Spider-Man stories back in the day, just weaving them all together and craft this great, very fun, adventurous, action-packed, and humorous at times, of course, story that's great for new and old fans alike, in my opinion. Great artwork by Humberto Ramos on this issue. It's basically Boomerang, who is now Peter Parker's roommate. They have this misadventure here. Really fun stuff. Some great, interesting things happening over at the Kingpin side of the Marvel Universe. Really cool stuff. I'm loving what Nick Spencer's doing, especially with Otley and Ramos over on Amazing Spider-Man. They're just winning everybody over. I'm loving it so much. Immortal Hulk number 7 is here. I'm continuing to read this book because I read the panel by panel. That was all about Immortal Hulk, and it had a lot of cool content and talking about a lot of the rich themes that are prevalent in this book. So I'm definitely going to be rereading it, so I'm going to keep on along. This is the Hulk versus the Avengers, and it's pretty fun, and those themes are there, and I can pick up on them now because the good fellows over at Panel by Panel helped me pick those out. But there's some deep things going on in this book, and on the surface it feels like at times what I didn't like about this book was that the first 2 issues were very straight up just horror comics, right? And then it starts veering more back into superhero territory. This one definitely has some superhero territory, but it still does have a chilling feel. And Joe Bennett's artwork, especially when the Hulk is up close, is very, very scary, very detailed. There's a great scene in here with him and Jennifer Walters. Loved that stuff. Some interesting concepts, and you see this crazy new weapon that the Avengers have developed to maybe try to go up against the Hulk. But I thought this was a pretty solid issue. I'm trying to start to come around on this title, giving it a little bit more of a shot. I'm going to do a reread very soon. But Immortal Hulk number 7, I thought was pretty good. Captain America number 4 is out this week. I'm loving what Ta-Nehisi Coates is doing, the themes he's exploring on this book right now. I'm loving Lynn Francis Yu's artwork. I was really nervous about him coming onto this book, but it's actually worked out very well for me. I think his artwork has a lot of weight to it, a lot of strength behind it. It doesn't feel sparse like it typically does to me. I really like the flow of the story. I like what Ta-Nehisi Coates is doing with this story. The things that he's talking about with Captain America and his relationship to this post-Hydra Cap America that he's in. But it always, each issue, my one thing is that each issue kind of only feels like half of a story, like half of an issue's worth of story. I feel like it's not quite as dense as it should be, especially coming from someone like Ta-Nehisi Coates. But I do like the artwork, I do like the story, I like where it's going. I just don't feel like there's enough meat per issue. But Captain America #4 out this week. X-23 #5 is out from Marvel this week. It's going to wrap up the first story arc of this new iteration of Laura's existence as X-23. Her and Gabby. I'm liking this one. This was a great story. I thought it was a nice wrap up to the story. Ultimately, I don't think it's as strong as the first story arc over at when Tom Taylor did All New Wolverine, but it's hard to compare these books. X-23 is definitely a personal story. It's a good story. It's got great, clean artwork all the way through. Great action, interesting character development, great dialogue. X-23 #5 out this week. Exiles #9 is out this week from Marvel Comics. I love this book. This book is amazing. Saladin Ahmed, to me, is just winning me over each issue. This is great. Instead of going into another reality, the Exiles kind of go into the stories, right? Alibaba, Sinbad, Aladdin. So they're occupying this shared story existence. Really cool stuff. And the artwork by Javier Rodriguez and Alvaro Lopez. Fantastic. Very dreamlike, very ethereal, very adequate and purposeful for this story. Really great, beautiful layouts. I think they're really doing some great stuff over at Exiles. I think it's one of the most overlooked books on the shelves, especially from Marvel. Exiles #9 out this week. From DC Comics, we got some cool, nifty foil covers out this week. Superman #4. I'm loving what Bendis is doing on Superman. All my fears have been washed away. I'm liking it. Superman, Action Comics, they have two distinct natures. I love the dichotomy of it. This is the big, explosive superhero world at end type stories. Action Comics is the more grounded, Metropolis-based type stories. I'm loving Superman. Ivan Reyes' artwork really leads to the big explosive nature of Superman and these stories that Bendis is telling. He understands the character of Superman. Rogol Zor is an interesting villain. He may be, he seems like he should be threatening. There's a lot of backstory that we're missing out on. We'll get to that in just a minute. But I do like what's going on in this story. Some really fun bits, nice nods to DC history. Some Kryptonian criminals trapped in the Phantom Zone get seen. I really do like this. Superman's been super fun. I just think it's great. Wonder Woman #56 is here and out this week. It's written by James Tynion because it's a crossover with Justice League Dark. The Witching Hour continues in this comic book this week. This is basically a big exposition issue, just explaining the villain, explaining the threat. It's not really boring. Tynion and the artists do a really good job of kind of keeping it interesting and kind of keeping it flowing. But it's not, it doesn't hide itself. This is an exposition issue, but it does it pretty decently. Wonder Woman #56, the next chapter in The Witching Hour. Detective Comics 990 is here. James Robinson is telling this Two-Face story right before Peter Tomasi comes on to take over Detective Comics for the foreseeable future. This feels like a fill-in story. It also just doesn't feel like the best story. It's not James Robinson's best work. The first two issues were all right. This issue, to me, was a little muddy, a little hard to follow, a little uninteresting. That was just me and the way I feel about it. But this cover was fire. I love that cover. Catwoman #4 is out this week. Joelle Jones is just knocking it out of the park. Whether she's writing it or she's illustrating it, which often she does both, fantastic stuff. She gets a little help on the artwork here by Fernando Blanco. Of course, Laura Allred on the coloring. I love this book so much. I think the artwork is great. The story is great. It's really a nice character study into Selena Kyle. And you don't really hear about that often when it comes to a Catwoman book, right? But the Ed Brubaker book was kind of like that. And this references some things from the Ed Brubaker book, some of the most sobering moments from the Ed Brubaker book. But if you're a fan of Ed Brubaker's work on the title, you're going to like this. But Joelle Jones definitely respects that run, but she definitely has her own voice, her own unique take on the character, and I'm loving it. It's a great character work with beautiful, elegant artwork. Catwoman's just been a blast. It's been fantastic. The Flash #56 is here. Flash has been dealing with these new forces that have been unleashed on the DC Universe. The Strength Force and now the Sage Force. So the Strength Force took over the Trickster and made him this big, crazy, monstrous guy. And the Sage Force now is coming after Heatwave. It's kind of like a psychic attack type thing, something like that. It's a little unclear. This is one of the weaker issues of recent issues of The Flash from Joshua Williamson. He's been doing some great world building, building up some new ideas over at The Flash right now. It does have some great artwork by Scott Collins. It's going to kind of take you back to those Jeff Johns Flash days. Really fun story though. I do like what's going on, but this is definitely one of the more dull issues of recent time. You know, the last, I think every issue's been so solid right now, but I don't think we have anything to worry. Just a little bit of a lull for me. Hawkman number 5 is out this week, and this is my favorite one of those foil covers this week. This cover is sharp. I really, really like it. Hawkman's been a great book. Brian Hitch's artwork is epic. It's big. It's just exactly what it needs to be. Really refined. It's like a return to former glory. Even though some of his recent artwork over at some of the Justice League stuff, like that 7-issue series he did before Rebirth started, that was really good for some of his artwork. But dude, he's killing it on the artwork in this. And Robert Venditti is taking all these different versions of Hawkman, and like people have tried before, like Jeff Johns, to bring them together. He's doing it even more so, and it makes more sense, and it's more interesting, and it's leading to this bigger mystery. You also got this nice team up in this issue, basically, of the whole issue is this team up of the Atom and Hawkman. So old school Justice League fans, you're really going to like that. Lots of old school references. Really fun stuff. Hawkman's been one of my absolute favorite comic books from DC. Supergirl number 23 is here. This cover's probably going to be pretty hot because it's foil and it's art germ, and it's got this really cool effect where her eyes kind of shine and pop, and it's kind of very chilling and scary. Anyway, this issue is all right. It kind of is going after the origins of Rogol Zor. I don't even know how we're supposed to pronounce this guy's name. But anyway, Supergirl is out in space right now trying to figure out what happened. Is he really responsible for the death of Krypton? It seems like the Green Lantern Corps is going to get in her way. It's an alright book. It's kind of picking up some of those trails, those like dangling plot threads from Bendis's run. Sometimes Bendis gets critiqued because he has some things that just get dangled and don't really, you know, get wrapped up nice and neatly. And so it seems like Andreyko's over at Supergirl to kind of keep this one element of the story alive, the origin of Rogol Zor and what he exactly did to Krypton and all that kind of stuff. So if you're really into the Bendis stuff with what he's doing with Superman, you definitely want to check it out as a nice like auxiliary tale. How important is it going to be in the long run? I don't know, but definitely I think that issue is going to be hot because of that cover this week. Cursed Comics Cavalcade. I want to point this out. I don't want you to sleep on this. I don't want you to miss it out. This is great. It's one of those 80-page giants. It's like $10 or something like that. Yeah, $10. It's one of those books. They do these things seasonally. This is the Halloween one. Typically, these things are okay. They may have 1 or 2 decent stories. This one's actually really cool. You got a lot of talent on here, telling some really cool spooky tales with some of the best horror-centric and just some of the best characters over at DC. You got great talent. Magdalene Visaggio doing Superman, Vita Ayala doing Wonder Woman. We got Kyle Hotz doing a Swamp Thing story. So Swamp Thing fans, you're definitely going to want to get the book just for that alone. You got James Tynion doing a Zatanna story. We got Brian Hill. We got Michael Morisi. We got Gabriel Hardman doing a Demon story. Great stuff. Really cool, nice sampling of different art styles, different writing styles, different characters, all themed around Halloween spooky tales. Really fun stuff. I cannot recommend that book enough. Michael Cray wraps up this week with issue number 12, the final issue of this spin-off from Warren Ellis's The Wildstorm. So Michael Cray got introduced there, then he spun off into his own series. As a series, this has been a nice character study into Michael Cray and setting him up for what's going to be happening, I guess, in Wildstorm and in that universe from this point forward. It definitely it comes full circle here. It's got some nice iterations and versions of DC characters that you know and love, but way different and more twisted, like Constantine and Wonder Woman, The Flash and Aquaman, all those characters throughout. A very satisfying conclusion. I do like it. It's not as good as The Wildstorm, but it's hard to live up to that book. That book is exceptional, but this is a nice, fun action book with a tinge of sci-fi that has a nice, twisted take on some of your favorite DC characters. Michael Cray was pretty decent. Nice, solid finale. The Last Space Race is here from Aftershock Comics. This was a decent story, a little muddy at times, the artwork was just a little, at times, just didn't really quite get the point across for me. The story's pretty decent though, science fiction. They see something is coming towards Earth. They want to make a spaceship to go out there and figure it out. So you got 2 characters that are going to have to work together to make this mission come true. Kind of stories that you see before, but it was kind of neat. It was kind of fun. I didn't really hate it. But it just, I don't think ultimately with some of the great science fiction and comics right now, I think ultimately just going to get kind of buried by some of it. The Devil Within, though, from Black Mask Comics, I definitely want to recommend to you horror fans out there. This is some excellent horror comic book execution right here. Really cool stuff. It's a couple. One of them starts seeing her reflection in the mirror, start looking evil, doing other things, moving without her, staying still when she's moving. Creepy things. It comes across in the artwork. The artwork is good. It's got a really nice pace to it. It's creepy. It's got a nice sense of foreboding, suspense about it. But I really did like it. Like the characterization, like the dialogue, love the artwork. One of your sleeper hits of the week will be Devil Within from Black Mask. Infinite Dark #1 is here from Top Cow / Image Comics. This is one of those books that has a great, brilliant idea, but I just think had a very poor execution. This book was very difficult to get into. The characterization was off. The dialogue I didn't really like. It felt a little stiff for me. I didn't like the flow of the story. The concept is great, though. At the end of the universe, when all reality and time has disappeared, man has figured out how to build a space station that can withstand it. But it would house 15,000 survivors, but only 2,000 actually make it, so it's kind of like got this weird haunted ghost town type feel. So it's a really interesting premise that just the premise alone almost can get you into the next issue, but the execution was just way off for me. I just don't think that the writing and the art and everything came together to really kind of get this across. Such a great concept, but ultimately just didn't really like that one. Moth and Whisper #2 is here. #1 came last month. It was the pick of the week out of nowhere. Issue 2 was really cool. A great spy thriller with a brilliant usage of color. It's got a very limited color palette that really helps accentuate moments of the story and the action and the suspense and the mystery. Really fun stuff. I like this book. I like the dialogue. I like the flow. I like the pace. Everything about this to me is just a little pitch perfect. I love Moth and Whisper. #2 out this week. Another book I adore from Aftershock Comics is Hot Lunch Special #3 out this week. This book is great. Written by Elliot Rahal with artwork by Jorge Fornes and lettering by Taylor Esposito. Fantastic job from everybody involved, from the layouts to the script to the characterizations, the dialogue, everything about this book is fantastic. It's a crime story. It's basically about this family that has to pay for the sins of the father to get their food company up and running back in the day. He made a deal with some low-level mafia type stuff, right? And now both sides, it's escalated to a point beyond what both sides want, where it can handle. They're just trying to be blue collar on both sides of this conflict, and it keeps just going, spiraling out beyond their control. Really great stuff. Hot Lunch Special. If it's not on your radar, it definitely needs to be. This is a fantastic book. Issue 3 out this week. Farmhand #4 is out. Rob Guillory, the artist from Chew, very favorite artist from over at Chew. Farmhand's a great book. It's about this family that runs a farm that grows body parts. And it sounds zany, and it's zany. The art's zany. It's crazy fun. Some interesting new revelations about characters in this issue. Keeps up the pace of the story. The momentum carries forward. Farmhand's been exceptional 4 issues in. Absolutely. Another exceptional book has been Crowded. This one's really cool. It's set in a world where you can now crowdfund assassinations. And this one poor person who we have no idea why, so they get this big mystery that's built up, has an assassination pinned on her, and all of a sudden it's crowdfunded to like $2 million or something. It's crazy. So now every wannabe assassin's out there after her. She gets her app, Defend, called Defend, because this is an app-driven world. Really cool social comedy in here with high-octane action with a nice free, dynamic, loose art style that's applied throughout. Really cool stuff. So she has a bodyguard she gets from her app Defender, and they're just trying to survive, trying to make it through. Meanwhile, we got this mystery of why do they want to kill this woman, and why did they get crowdfunded so high so fast. Really cool stuff. Crowded. #3 out this week. Also from Image Comics, we got Bully Wars #2 from Scotty Young and Aaron Conley. Really good stuff. Loved issue 1. Love issue 2 even more. It's basically about the town that's got the most bullies in the world, and they have this competition called the Bully Wars. And new freshman, their bully, is being picked on by the bullies of the high school now, so he needs help from the people that he bullied all throughout school, so he can enter and win this Bully Wars. But it's really fun, very clever at times, especially with the way it tells the story through the artwork. Very funny. Perfect for like teenagers and young teens and preteens and things like that. I really like this book. I think it's got a charm to it. I think it's very endearing. A really cool story that's probably going to wind up having a nice morale and a nice heart to it. Bully Wars, out from Image Comics this week, issue #2. Also from Image Comics, we got Oblivion Song #8. This has been one of my favorite Robert Kirkman stories. It's interesting. It's really fun. I'm loving the characters. I'm loving how the story's developing. It's got great Beautiful artwork that I absolutely adore from Lorenzo De Felici. Fantastic stuff. Kirkman is doing a great job. It's not just talking heads. It's not just the same story repeated over and over. I really like Oblivion Song. I think 8 issues in, and it's pretty solid. From Dark Horse in the world of Black Hammer, we have the Quantum Age #3. So if you read Black Hammer, you may think, oh, so there's another one of these little tie-in books. It's not going to really be that important. It's loosely connected to the world of Black Hammer. But then Jeff Lemire is Jeff Lemire, and he tells a story that just breaks your heart and makes you think, and he does it and makes it look like it's super, super simple. And that's what Jeff Lemire does, and he does it in this Quantum Age #3, best issue of this series yet. This is basically like the Black Hammer world's version of the Legion of Superheroes, but after they have already broken, years afterwards, right? Really cool, great stuff, heartfelt, sentimental, a little sad and melancholy. Sounds like Jeff Lemire at his best. Quantum Age #3 firing off right there on all cylinders. And from Boom Studios, we get Go-Go Power Rangers #13, picking up what's going to happen with Go-Go Power Rangers after Shattered Grid. Nothing. It's just going to keep on keeping on. Dan Mora is no longer on the art, but we do have Eleonora Carlini doing a fantastic job of keeping that high energy, high octane flow set by Dan Mora. Great book, really fun for fans of the Power Rangers. If you're not fans of the Power Ranger, I don't think you're really going to dig it, but it's kind of set in the early days. It's got a reference to Pudgy Pig, so that's kind of fun. Kind of silly, right? Anyway, that's what I read this week, and that's what I thought about it. Murder Falcon just killed it for me. I loved it, thought it was exceptional. It was a very fun, boisterously absurd, and just rambunctiously fun comic book, but it also had a lot of heart to it, and it had just an excellent, perfect execution, pace, and flow, panel design, and everything all throughout the book. Murder Falcon to me, pick of the week. What was your pick of the week? What'd you read? What'd you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. Please do like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And check us over at our Facebook page. We got a pinned contest at the top of our Pop Culture Philosophers Facebook page right now. You can enter to win a Bronze Age Swamp Thing trade paperback from Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson, and I will be announcing the winner of that live Wednesday night. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you guys for everything. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.